All right, howdy, welcome back to Windley Mania, the greatest podcast you never heard of, brought to you by the greatest band that you have never heard of, that band being Windley. You got to follow at Windley_band on all the socials. Keep up with the world of Windley. Yes, indeed. I am the best in the world, Andrew Reidner. With me, as always, man's best friend, Devin Hopkins. Devin. Devin, how you doing, man?
I'm great.
Thanks for getting this charger that doesn't work.
Well, you know, I'm happy to help out any way I can.
Yeah.
I love to provide things that don't work. That's why people ask me to help them.
Yeah.
If you really want something that's wrong, then I'm your guy.
It's been a season of giving.
Yes.
On this Windley Mania season, and I received a charger that does not work.
Well, you shouldn't have forgot yours.
No, we're not alone here in the storage unit, though. We have with us the frontman of Wicked Gift, who's celebrating a 25-year anniversary.
As far as with the band goes?
Yeah.
It might be 20 years.
Yeah.
Never look back.
Sure.
Don't ever look back.
Playwright, filmmaker, comic book creator as well. Phil Fox. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. We kind of wanted to especially talk to you because there is the past couple people we've talked to have talked about more of the hardcore side of the scene, and then on one of the websites, I think it was like wickedgift.com, you kind of described in one of your writings sort of this other side of the scene as far as like the singer-songwriter thing or the more indie alternative coffee house style type thing. So that's what we're really going to get into with your perspective on that. But where are you from?
Originally from Bethesda, Maryland, which is just outside Washington, D.C., but I've been here for most of my life at this point. I've gone pretty native.
Yeah. Were you playing music back in Bethesda? Were you there that long?
Yeah, I've been playing music for a pretty long time at this point. But it was really, I got here kind of like right out of school. Okay. I got a job offer with IBM, and they said, we've got one opening. It's in Myrtle Beach. I said, that sounds good to me.
Have you ever heard of it before, Myrtle Beach? Were you?
No, actually I did, because our next door neighbors would disappear for 2 weeks every summer this strange place called Myrtle Beach. Yeah. So when I actually got here, I sort of was slightly familiar with it.
Yeah. Did you grow up with like music in the home?
Yeah. Oh yeah, always. My parents actually played like musicals for, Sunday dinner. We would get like a bunch of show tunes and stuff like that. So that was kind of like my initial thing. And I grew up in the choir, church choir, like a lot of us did. So I was doing music pretty early, piano lessons in first grade and all that kind of crazy stuff.
Okay. And you play piano. I've seen you play piano and guitar. Is that...
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm like way better technically on keyboards. Yeah. So I always refer to myself like as a strummer singer as far as the coffee house kind of thing goes. But if you want me on your album or something, get me as a keyboard player, because I'll be able to help you out a lot more that way.
Okay. And I could hear it too growing up with you said they were in musicals, your parents?
Yeah.
Was there like a local theater, or were they
tour? No. I mean, there actually was one. Gosh, now that you mention it, I think all the way back. I did see West Side Story pretty early on.
Okay.
That's one thing that comes to mind. But I never was a theater kid. I never thought I was going to be having anything to do with theater. That was a completely weird thing that happened. Our second CD with Wicked Gift was called Down for the Summer, and we had most of it written and ready to record. And I just woke up one morning and was trying to figure out, because I'm really interested in the sequencing, like a live show or on an album. Sequencing really matters to me. That's why I'm kind of
like a structure.
I'm kind of unhappy that singles are the thing, because I really like the rise and fall of an album.
I love a full album,
right? Yeah. So I just leaned over and looked at the list, and I thought, God, if I put these in a particular order, they actually tell a story, which was not my intent at all, right? Oh, wow. And I sort of like that, because most concept albums have weak songs that I kind of call connective tissue, just kind of because you got to tell a story. They take you from A to B. But in this case, the songs already had all their integrity. So I just had to put them in that order, right? Mm-hmm. So that's on the liner notes. I called it a virtual a virtual play at that point.
Yeah, I saw it was like described as on the front. It says like mini drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
With no intent that it would ever actually be staged. Like that was a lot. I had no idea how to do that and no intention of doing it.
Sure.
But 2 years later, I met a guy, and he had some experience doing that. And so I said, hey, would you like to sort of shepherd me through the process of how to write a script? James Knight. And and so we met up. He was with a group called the Wicked Awesomes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He fronted that band.
Yeah.
So we met up at Mellow Mushroom every 2 weeks. I said, here's the next scene. Here's what happens in the scene. And he went home and worked on it, came back, and we talked it through. And so we finally actually had a script at the end of 2 months. Okay, what do we do now? Hell if I knew, right? But, you got a script. You got to do something with it. Luckily, Fresh Brood even then was very supportive. So it came up with the idea of, and this is the way it worked out, the band set up in back. The actors were in front. And we had a screen, a pull-down screen at Fresh Brood. So basically, the band would play the song and the lyrics would show up on the screen. Then the actors would play the scene. Then we would play the next song. And this is, that's how we went through.
Yeah.
And that show started with New Year's Eve and ended with New Year's Eve. So it was a cyclic, like 1 year
Oh,
thing.
right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And we called it, I'll come up with it in a second.
Okay. Well, going back to when.
I'm
you still got
sorry.
it?
Carry on.
Okay. Well, we're going back to like when you first got to Myrtle Beach. I mean, what was the landscape like for you as far as
Fascinating.
music scene or anything? What was your reaction coming down here?
So first of all, I had no idea there was anything cool happening here. Last thing I expected to find, right? But I did very shortly start hanging out at a coffee house, which at that point was called Ibby's, which right now it's Sun City Cafe. But it's in downtown.
In the downtown area.
Yeah, downtown Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
You can still see the original, some of the original seating, and the ceiling still looks the same and everything. So that became almost my home away from home. Like it was kind of like, it was coffee instead of alcohol. Sure. But it was still like a instant family almost. And they had a coffee, they had an open mic night. And so I hadn't written songs in a while, and I wanted something to play, so I started writing these songs so I'd have something to do there. And then I started meeting musicians, and eventually I had enough songs to record an album with. And so there was never an intent that there should be Wicked Gift as a real band.
That's what I saw, and you kind of documented that pretty well as far as. The songs were just acoustic songs, and then the band came later. The band was just there to record the album, from what I understand.
But there's a particular night, I think Alley Cats was right around the corner from there. There was a club called Alley Cats. And I went, and Planet Cock was playing at Alley Cats, right? And I was just like, what the hell is this? What have I been missing? Yeah. And so after we had finished recording the album, very good musicians, Jamie Mervyn, Scott Watkins. And we're like, hey, we know these songs. Let's just go out and play them, And so this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you guys, because I feel like we're all sort of on the same wavelength here. It's like, wow, what do you do if you don't know anybody? Well, the first thing you do is reach out to the community with something you have to offer. Right? It was exactly what you guys are doing, right? You want to reach beyond yourself. So a coffee house, the Living Room, had just opened up, I think on 38th Avenue. I think that's where it was. And the owner was Colin Birch. And I went in to talk to him, and I said, listen, give us 1 month, and 1 night a month, and we will have acoustic versions of the rock bands that are happening right now. There were a lot of rock bands happening, and some really good ones. At that point, it was like the Typewriters, something about Vampires and Sluts, the Beat Holes. There was like 20 easily, I would say easily 20 original bands at that point.
Yeah.
So I went around to them and I said, hey, how would you guys like to do an unplugged show?
Oh, yeah.
Like, because, you know, and their fans really loved it because they could actually hear the words. And the bands came up to us and said, this is some of the best nights we've ever had. You know, it's just because they weren't used to doing
Sure,
it
yeah,
that way.
yeah.
A little more relaxed, probably,
Yeah,
too.
but they were great in that. So that was a real success. And since our band hosted it, then they got to hear us too. Sure. So, you know, there was, and at that point too, Rebecca Dawkins had joined the band on electric violin, and that she's killer, both as a personality and as a musician. So that we were off and rolling then. At that point too, I did a fanzine for 6 months featuring a new original band every month, and all kinds of weird, like, local trivia stuff. Like one of the things, and I would have interviews like we're doing here.
What was it called?
It was called Scum, which was South Carolina underground music.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
One of my favorite things was, apologize for my voice crack, and one of my favorite things was we actually had a crossword puzzle with all the bands that Brian McKenzie had been in. So that's just
How big was that crossword?
Yeah, no, it was literally like there
2
was
pages.
25
Yeah.
entries. You know, it was
Yeah.
easy to do because he'd been in so many bands, played with so many people.
It's like a wall poster, probably.
So that there was a real. We're now talking pretty much 2002 to say 2009, maybe was like the real height of the scene, and there would be an original venue that would open up. And it would usually last almost a year and a half.
If you're lucky.
So yeah, right. Started with all these names are gonna be familiar. Started with the Lazy Eye, then the Limelight. There was a place called the Soundgarden.
Oh, that's further. It's
Yeah, it was on-
across from the airport now. I think it's Pulse now, right?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
But that was the underground venue for and these places specialized in original music. Right? Everywhere else in town, you'd have to play Margaritaville. But there was always one club. Then it went to the clubhouse. And then the real highlight of everything, I'm thinking 2007 or so, was the basement across the street from Drink. So you'd have you'd have two places that were right next to each other. And a crowd of maybe 80 to 100 people. You wouldn't see them all at the same time.
Yeah.
But they all
Yeah,
were
no.
friends. They all knew each other. And it was just, that was kind of, now people who were here for the 90s tell me, oh, that's nothing, But to me, it was great. That venue, the basement was great. Crazy Jay, who ran it, was born to be, the club owner you could, dream of in terms of being supportive and stuff like that. So after that went down, there was this kind of a lull for a while. That was when also the Social too was in there. Then it went to the Sound Hole, and that was kind of like the last gasp of that, for quite a while. Things really sort of, there wasn't, for the first time ever, there wasn't another club waiting to take over for that when they closed.
Yeah, I think that around the time we were starting to go to shows regularly, Soundhole was on the way out, and then we had like Woody's Roadside and
It was Rockin' Hard.
Rockin'
and then
Hard.
the new
Rockin' Hard.
And then the new Rockin' Hard when they moved
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
that other plaza. Those were the main spots that like our people were kind of our side of the scene that we had met as teenagers kind of ran those places. And
Yeah,
played
this
there.
one thing I really would like to say is that the way the whole scene worked was your high school band would graduate with all of the people who were their fans.
Yeah.
Like you'll never get fans like your high school buddies.
Well,
Unfortunately, we only had like 10 friends.
when we were in high school.
Is that right?
We were in high school, we didn't have any
maybe
fans.
that
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
what
I
would-
mean, some people just, I don't know, it must have skipped a generation because, like, that circuit band, they're Corrupt Faith now,
Right.
when they did their first show, they brought a bunch of people out of the woodwork that had never been to, that I had never seen before. And now, like, they're telling their friends. So it helped to have another young band because now we're aging out.
See,
We're
that's what that was really my point, was that It had always been like 2 or 3 high school bands would graduate at the same time. They would start at a non-alcohol venue, right? But then when they all got old enough, for like 2 or 3 years, that would sustain the whole scene. And then by the time those people moved away or found out they couldn't get jobs here or whatever it was, the next wave of high school bands would graduate and the scene would revitalize. And it just kept cranking that way. And we were very fortunate with 2 things. One, to this day on Spotify, our demographic is still 18 to 24. Hasn't changed a bit in all these years. The new album, 18 to 24, you know. So, you know, we love those guys. Music will never mean as much to you later on. Maybe as a memory it will.
Right.
But when you're young, music really hits you hard. And that's, you know, we respond to that as songwriters.
Yeah,
as
you're more
musicians.
malleable. And, I get it,
Yeah.
I want to take it back to the first record, though, because first record, Songs for Nocturna. Nocturna was a coffee house, right?
So Ibby's was eventually sold to Heather and Jamie, who ran Nocturna, right? Same location. And Jamie was the one who ended up playing bass for us for the first couple of albums that we did as Wicked Gift. That's where I met him. That's where he first started sitting in with me when I did open mic nights and strumming and singing. So it went from Ibby's to Nocturna to Algonquin. It was like a coffee house for almost like 8 years in a row or something. And then it went to Sun City Cafe.
I see. Was there like how would you rank them? The 3 of them, was one better than the other, or was there any really difference at all between the 3 of them, or was it just kind of like we got new owners and that's it?
Right. I still know Heather very well. Heather comes out to almost every show.
Okay.
She was a disc jockey for, I believe, WKZQ.
Oh, wow.
Her name was Leather Heather at that point, and she was like a rock and roll DJ. And she and Jamie owned Nocturna, so that was the section that was dearest to my heart right then, you know.
Was it, I mean, was it the same kind of activity in all 3, just the same with as far as singer-songwriters or open mics and whatnot?
Yeah, I would say pretty much. Things definitely got more experimental with Nocturna. There was LARPs. For example, we had a vampire LARP at Nocturna.
Okay. Wow.
You know, live action role play.
Well, you just go there and
it was pretty well organized. The
you
people
hang
who
upside
ran
down
it,
for a couple hours.
No, it was pretty funny. Like in the middle of July, you'd be driving to Nocturna in your vampire costume. So
right.
those are great.
All
Can't
right.
make that stuff up, you know.
Okay, we should bring that back. Yeah. All right. So the first record, I mean, this is kind of formed the Wicked Gift band.
In a way.
And in a way, what do you mean?
Well, only that Songs for Nocturna was essentially a Phil Fox solo album. But yeah, the core members of Wicked Gift at that point formed, and Stained Glass Scars, which is the first Wicked Gift album. Also, God, so those were the days when people actually bought CDs, right? And you could sell them online and actually make real money. Streaming, of course, knocked that completely out of the box, you know, to some degree. But that album on the internet sold really well, Stained Glass Scars.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, we're on to something good here.
Well, I mean, the one like big thing from that is the violin in the songs. What brought on that decision to try something different as opposed to like a lead guitar? You know, you just.
It was pretty. That's a good story too. I'll try and be concise.
Yeah, you don't have to be.
So Rebecca at that point was playing with a number of different people around town. You know, mainly sitting with other solo, like I think Nancy Joyner was one. There were several other musicians that she played with, and I had one song. I can't even remember which one now. On Songs for Nocturna, I thought it would be really cool to have a violin in this one song, right? So I went up and I said, hey, Rebecca, I was like some dude out of the audience, what the hell, right? Came up and said, hey, Rebecca, I know, we're doing this album. Could you like sit in on us with us? Sure. So Scott and I were recording Songs for Nocturnal was recorded in my spare bedroom.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's ironic because that's the most orchestrated album we have, right? But anyway, yeah, sure. I said, okay, well, we're recording Tuesday at like whenever it was, 7:00. So Scott and I are sitting there. Never showed up. All right, that happens sometimes. Musicians, blah, 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 blah. So a couple weeks went by, and I saw her again. Hey, Rebecca. Pretended like it never happened. Hey, Rebecca, I want to come and play on her. Oh, sure, right. Okay, well, it's going to be 7:00 on Tuesday. Never showed up, right? It's like, okay, fine. I'm done now. I did 2. That's enough. So we finished the album. And we'd actually had it pressed and everything. And I go into Barnes & Noble one day, and she's sitting there. I go, hey, Rebecca, when you finish the album, would you like to hear a cut off it? So we went out to my car, I played it. And she went, oh, I could have been on this. I said, yeah, you could have. She said, I don't, well, it's too late now. And I said, well, we're rehearsing Tuesday at 7:00. And once she was in, she was like, like gangbusters,
Was she late ever again?
Listen, she's a trooper. I have a picture of her. She was taking motorcycle lessons for a while, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I have a picture of her at a show. She had to stop because she had a crack up in the lesson, right? So she's sitting there, with her arm in a sling, leaning on this crutch, and she's still playing violin. That's the kind of trooper she was. She did ultimately move to Florida. That was a very difficult phone call for me to live through. She said, I just feel moved to move to Florida. I think perhaps her mother lived down there. And I've learned in life, never argue with somebody's inner voice. You just can't, right? And so I was like, oh, God, this is the end of everything, because she had such a great stage presence. But when she moved down there, she actually flew back to record Down for the Summer with us.
Okay.
So, even though technically she wasn't in the band anymore, nobody ever really leaves Wicked.
Oh.
So,
once you're in, you're always in.
Once you're in, you're always in. Yeah, so watch it. If you play with us, look out.
Okay. Well, we kind of talked about Down for the Summer, but with the accidental storytelling that went on with that record, is that kind of lead into like Gratisphere?
Very much so. Very much so.
You want to describe?
There's a great story about Gratisphere that actually ties in perfectly. It's like we sat together before this started and figured out what we were going to do, right?
Right?
Okay, so during Down for the Summer, we had 2 actresses in it. And they said, oh, we're performing at this burlesque over at the basement. And the basement was only rock, right? I didn't know anything about burlesque, right? 1930s, feather boas, fat guys with cigars. That's it. That's all I knew about it, right? So, but you want to support like the people that you're working with. So a bunch of us went over there that night, and I hope they'll forgive me for imparting this. It started an hour and a half late. Ruben Long.
Come on. That's
a Myrtle Beach. That's a Myrtle Beach.
No. I know. An hour and a half late after you would think it would start.
Yeah.
Ruben Long had to get their sound system working because the sound system wouldn't work, and there was like no lighting. The vignettes were disconnected, and it ended up with the women screaming at the guy who put it on because they hadn't agreed on how they were going to get paid. So it was just a disaster.
Sure. Yeah.
However, like normally I would have just gone, okay, that's burlesque, But because I'd already was in the middle of doing this play, I thought, with an actual storyline, original music, good lighting, this might actually be an art form here, right?
Sure, yeah.
That's how I started looking at it. So I went home and I wrote this thing over a 2-week period. Not the music yet, just the story, right? And this woman I knew, Stephanie Crane, was an experienced choreographer, great dancer. and I said, hey, I wrote this thing and I have no idea what it's, I don't know. So read it over for me and tell me what you think, right? So I gave it to her. I walked around the block, gave her like 30 minutes or so. I walked back in, and she goes, if you don't let me do this, I'm going to kill you. And so I said, guess we're on to something here,
Yeah.
right? So that was the beginning.
Okay. So can you describe what Gratosphere exactly was?
I'm not sure. No one ever asked me to do that before.
Yeah.
And without visual aids, it's going to be kind of difficult. But I will say that there were a few things that I wanted definitely out of it. I wanted both men and women to like it. And I knew to make that happen, it had to be a narrative, like women like a story, and I wanted it to end up with, love triumphing at the end. But I also wanted these dances to kind of like string together almost like beads on a necklace or something. So and the thing that was cool for me as a songwriter, as a composer, was to compose all these sort of like minute to minute and a half vignettes, like a Mideastern belly dance, New Orleans barrel house jazz, like these different genres, instrumental, salsa, right? This was very cool for me because, usually you just sort of do rock. So I went in and I recorded all that with Brian McKenzie too, and we integrated that into the show as well. But to kind of sum it up, well, boy, are you going to regret having me here. So to sum it up, we put this thing together, and on a January night at the Basement, we did it. And the audience loved it. And it was a big success. But the funniest part was that a couple came up to me after it and said, somebody's finally doing something artistic in Myrtle Beach. And I just cracked up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's how would you compare it to your first experience with
theater?
Burlesque? You think you got it together the first try to go as smooth as you thought it was going to go?
It actually was. Okay, so I'm going to tell you my favorite Myrtle Beach story now.
Okay.
And it's recorded for posterity, right?
Yeah.
Posterity. So we did the first shows in January. We did, I think, a night of two of them and something like that. And Michael Wood, who was the main booker at that point, said, you got to come back and do it again. But once I'm through with something, I'm kind of done for a while. Mm-hmm. But he kept hey, come on. But in the interim time, the Basement was under a lot of pressure from the city. The police were watching it very carefully. Anytime anything's successful around here, the heat starts to crank up. And they had an issue with somebody sold an alcoholic drink to somebody from SLED.
Oh, shit.
And it was just oh man, this is really not good.
Yeah.
So I'd already said, yeah, we'll do it again at some point, right? So this was the deal. Crowded Friday night, place is packed. Michael Wood is sitting there taking tickets or whatever. So I fight my way through the crowd. I say, Michael, I know the heat's on. This is probably not the best time in the world that you want to put a sci-fi burlesque on, right? And Michael turns to me and he goes, if we can't put on this show, what the heck do we have an underground for? Sure. And I was just shoot me.
Yeah.
I was just I was almost wept, right? Yeah. But Michael's not the owner. Jay's the owner, right? Yeah. So I fight my way through the crowd over to Jay. I go, Jay!
Yeah.
I understand this is not probably the best time to be putting on a sci-fi burlesque. I don't know if you ever met Jay or not. He's this guy in his mid-30s, bald as a billiard ball, right? Big fat cigar, right? Leans back, goes, sometimes you just got to say, what the fuck? And then I died completely.
Yeah.
That says everything you need to know about what we're supposed to be about.
Yeah, sure.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just to have, I'd be stressed the fuck out, to be honest, just because, like, it's already enough to kind of, like, gather up your touring bands and your local bands, make sure people are there on time, but then you're doing a whole goddamn,
Show.
Yeah, musical
Production.
and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I would have never thought that would be a good idea, even if I wanted to do it. I was like, no, that's a bad idea. Why would I have a musical at the basement?
Right, right.
That's a horrible idea. But it worked out.
It's a horribly
and you've
great
done it.
idea.
It really did. We
couple
actually
times.
have a really good film of that too. We don't know who
okay.
filmed it, but Brian Ressler edited it for us, and he did a bang up job. So I have a YouTube channel up.
Okay.
And it's got my most recent play up there. Which was in November. It's called Adelaide, and they filmed the dress rehearsal because the guy couldn't get there for the actual show. But it was better that way because you didn't have crowd noise and stuff like that. So that's really good. I've got a sci-fi film up there that we shot. The only film I've done so far. It's like a Twilight Zone film. And there's also miscellaneous, like just me solo singing in a couple videos and stuff like that. I'm still creating and adding content as we go along. But if there's any way you can sort of, if I can just give you that address at some point so that people can actually look it up if they want to.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the movie later too.
Okay.
We both watched the movie.
I watched it earlier.
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
I look forward to hearing what you have
I want
to
to ask
say about that.
because I'm a big comic book guy, and I've
Okay.
expressed a lot of interest in creating comic books as well. But
Yeah.
So how did the Gratosphere comic
book happen?
Yeah.
God, man, this is so much fun. I got to tell you. So, essentially, the idea was that ultimately we'll put this on again, but and some people were saying like, do a sequel, and sequels suck, there's no way I'm going to do a sequel, right? But enough time went by, a couple years went by, and I had enough random good ideas without trying to, that I eventually had enough material to do a sequel, and we did one at a place I think called Hangovers, or possibly it had changed its name by then. I think it had another name, and I've sort of forgotten it at the time. But the idea originally was to have some merch, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to put this on, then, and hey, you can buy the comic book, right? Well, I hadn't realized just how crazy that endeavor was. For one thing, I discovered that there's actually, you almost have a band to put on a comic book, right?
Yeah,
There's the pencil guy, like you go in and like draw the pencils, and then you have the ink person who comes in after that. And in our case, we had Alison McKellar-Clardy did the inking, and she did it all by hand because we were going for that almost retro 1950s Archie look. People since then have gone, oh my God, she did that by hand, like how unheard of. But that's what we were going for. And then we had Jesse, who'd been in the in Gratosphere, did the digital coloring, and but so if you think about it, I think ultimately it ended up being. So I think I can do this real quickly. We ended up doing both Gratosphere and Gratosphere 2. We did Gratosphere 1 just as a comic book. We did Gratosphere 2 as a graphic novel. To qualify as a graphic novel, you need at least 90 pages, and it needs to be big enough so that you can print something on the spine. Talk about things I had no idea about.
Well, I mean,
so now that's what a graphic novel is.
The school I come from, they're all comic books. To me.
Right.
I mean, Will Eisner made the first graphic novel. It's, Contract with God is a comic book. I mean, that's what I'm going to call it.
Yeah. So again, real quick, at some point midway through the comic book of Gratosphere 2, Jesse couldn't do the coloring anymore. So the idea was, what am I going to do? I don't know anybody who does this stuff. And people went, oh, you can get somebody from India real cheap, and I was just like, I don't want to do that. So I downloaded Photoshop, and there was a guy who did caricatures at the mall. And I just could get nowhere with Photoshop for a week. I just
yeah.
and he goes, layers.
Yeah.
Layers?
Layers.
What's that?
Yeah.
Okay, so he basically bootstrapped me into and like learning Photoshop, being forced to learn Photoshop is the best thing that ever happened to me. I've used it constantly ever since. For posters, for promotion,
Yeah.
for like all that kind of stuff.
Always like learning new crap with,
Yeah.
with that stuff.
Yeah. You ever think about like how did I get tied up with theater and comic books? I mean, you think about that a lot. Like how the hell did this happen?
No. I honestly can tell you, I have no idea where any of this stuff comes from. Like I said, I wasn't a theater kid. The last thing I ever thought of, but I've put on 5 plays now. Fresh Brood has been highly supportive of my endeavors. God, I cannot speak highly enough of Kate and Fresh Brood. Let me just say real quickly that they are now. So, do you know about the First Friday art walks?
I've seen those.
Yeah, they work with the.
I know Daniel goes to them.
Right.
They do they work with like the city, like the.
Right, it's
downtown
just starting.
I'm sure you
Now-
know more about this.
Now they're
Yeah.
hooked. Well, yeah. Let me just do a little sidebar about the First Friday
Yeah.
art walks. Basically, they now have an agreement with the Goofy Footers to host the same way that we did. Our original coffee house when we hosted our thing. Now the Goofy Footers are hosting at the train depot. I think that's actually going to start on a regular basis in July, if I remember right. And that's going to be one of the centerpieces of these First Friday art walks.
Nice.
Normally what happens with the First Friday art walks, the restaurants and bars will feature given artists, and they actually now have a shuttle that drives around to the various locations, but it's all involved around the super block area, pretty much where 501 hits Business 17, right? So Fresh Brood, for example, has had, for the last 4 or 5 months, they've had a featured artist. Peyton Benton was one of them. And I'm actually going to be there for March 7th.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be surrounded by my paintings and be strumming and singing like my tunes. So the art walks are from 5 to 8. And Wicked Gift is going to be playing at Nance Plaza on the May Art Walk.
Oh, nice.
So
That's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool that they're like the city and the community is actually like.
I've
giving
always
some
felt like
attention.
music and art belong
Yeah.
together. And I really feel that, COVID was a very hard time for musicians. It was like ridiculous, right? And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to sit here in front of my microphone with my camera and like sing. And people are going to like get that. But yourself, people just scroll through. You've got like 10 seconds.
Because there's like 100 other people doing the same
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
What am I going to do different?
But I've always said, after the plague comes the Renaissance. And I really feel like we're queued up this summer to finally like come roaring back. So I'm very excited about what the immediate future appears to hold right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And one thing about Wicked Gift, first time I saw you guys, I saw Scorpio's Kiss.
Oh, you saw Scorpio's Kiss?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I saw Scorpio's Kiss when I was like 11 or 12. What year was that exactly?
When we were 11.
That was 2012.
Okay, maybe I don't remember. How old was I in 2012?
How
It
old
doesn't
were you?
matter. But anyways. But
Mostly this.
since then, and a lot of that time, you played with Drew Jacobs.
Yeah, Drew's awesome. What a great guy to play with, let me tell you. So yeah, for a while, when we reached a point, like we'd gone through several guitar players, and there were several lead guitar players on Falling Through Time, which was prior to Going All Out, which was the last album we did. There's several guitar players on there because we'd gone through a series of them at that point.
Yeah.
And when the final one left, Curtis, he moved to Nashville. It was just I couldn't take it anymore. It's just like sometimes you're just like, oh man, I'm done.
Yeah.
So Drew started his band. And I backed him up for like probably 2 years or so. Like he wanted to do R&B. And like, so it was a combination, that was Drew Jacobs and the Sauce.
Yeah.
Right?
We were a lot of those shows.
We were
as
like,
well.
yeah.
Yeah. And I actually really love that. I'm not kidding. Like he never told me like, don't jump around because like I always jump around behind the keyboards. He never tried to reel me in. He just sort of said, okay, and it was great for me to not have the pressure, right? I'm just the piano player. Like, don't shoot the piano player, right? So that was really good to do. And I didn't want to get Wicked Gift back together until I had enough songs that demanded to be heard again. So it was really cool for me to back Drew up.
Yeah. I was just noticing that just because it's nice to have someone you could play. Like, that's over a decade now, like playing with.
Yeah.
Just a constant person, like, to play music.
Don't look
with
back. You can never look back.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I was astonished how long ago the Drew Jacobs thing was. We just had something pop up that showed all of us. Liz Kelly was playing with the band at that point. And it was 12 years ago. I was like, wow.
Yeah. But Scorpio's Kiss.
Yeah.
Was that the second play or third or?
So let me see. Scorpio's Kiss was based around a performance of Rocky Horror that happened at Drink.
Right. Yeah.
And there was so much backstage drama. That was not my show. Right. But I knew almost everybody in it. And so I kept hearing like people were going, rah, 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 rah. So I basically built Scorpio's Kiss around all the backstage drama that happened at that. And it was, by the way, it was a great show. It was a great show at Rocky Horror at Drink.
Right. Yeah.
Can I tell you one story about that?
Sure, yeah.
So I don't know, you sort of have to know Rocky Horror to get what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
But Caroline was the lead role as Janet.
That's
right?
my cousin. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
She's awesome. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Tell her I said hey.
Yeah.
Okay, that explains maybe why you saw Scorpio's Kiss.
Yeah. I wasn't old enough to go to Drink
She
yet.
was the star in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, this is great then. You'll really appreciate this. So obviously a lot of people, like everyone in the bar, knew Rocky Horror backwards and forwards, right? So she steps up to sing, and the guy hits the button for the background music to play on the CD, and nothing happens. And she turns white as a sheet, right? She just sort of starts to sing, and the whole bar joins in.
Oh, man.
I was great. God, right?
That's so cool.
Oh,
That's
man.
awesome,
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Great
No,
moments.
with her, I mean, I was injected Rocky Horror like, every Halloween.
Sure.
Maybe a few days around, like before that. Yeah. This
Flag Day.
constant thing. Flag Day. Yeah, but Scorpio, that's like a step up from not to say that Basement's like a
No, it was.
a tough,
for
but-
real. That was the most. We had a
It's a bigger
dressing
space.
room. We
Yeah,
had like
bigger
a green
space.
room.
Yeah.
No, that was classic. I walked in, that was run by Coastal.
Right.
And Tom Penn was the guy who would show up once in a while. He was sort of like the manager of the place. And I showed up one day, out of nowhere, and he said, I said, I've got this play. And he went, what? And I said, yeah, I wrote it. I've got the music for it and everything, I rather like it. And he went, well, it does say in our mandate we're supposed to like promote local art, so sure, I guess go ahead.
They don't have to pay a licensing fee. I imagine,
Yeah. So I give him credit for that.
Yeah.
He had no idea who I was, but he let us put it on.
Yeah. He just walked in and was like, hey.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. And I remember the one back at Fresh Brewed, I went to that one, Eventide.
Right.
The Renaissance.
Right.
Yeah.
So we put that on in 2015 and 2016. Yeah. So I appear at the Medieval Fair here. This is going to be I think our 12th year, 11th or 12th year.
Those are always so much fun to go to.
People are always, to this day, we have a Medieval Fair here. It's like, so I appear as a drunken Irish troubadour, So I do a lot of Irish music, a lot of Irish pub music. And I really love to do that stuff. And I did eventually write a novelette, because it's pretty short. It's about 40 pages long, based on the play. So I've seen a film recently of the first play we did, and the story really was it was too complicated to try and do. We did it anyway, because what the hell, right? But the second year on 2016 was more coherent for sure. And I did eventually distill that script into a book, which I now sell along with the music that I wrote for it on a like little thumb drive. I just did that this most recent weekend at Chapin Library. There was 35 local authors, children's and adults authors there. I sold 4 books and bought 2, so I feel I'm doing good.
There you go. Yeah. Unless those books cost more than what you were selling yours.
No, it was pretty much even across the board. I can't complain about that.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean that's how that one came out of you. You've been involved in the Renaissance fair scene.
Yeah, and I put it on roughly the same time as the Renaissance, so it was like cross promotion.
Yeah. Okay, and I guess jumping forward to the movie. I mean, 5 days.
Pretty dark.
Yeah. I mean, you just figured, I've done the music, I've done the musicals, comic book.
Logical next step.
Yeah, I gotta make a
logical
movie.
next step. But none of the thinking that went into it was logical at all. You guys saw the film, right?
Right, yeah.
So basically, I was just out walking late in the evening, right? But there was still daylight. It was like walking around the block. And then one of those little twirly seeds, like a maple leaf or something, that just
we used to call them helicopters.
Right.
Yeah.
Like just went down. And all of a sudden, the train of thought opened up after that, So it's rare that I can put my finger on a single moment, which was the inception of an idea, but that was it right then. And again, it usually takes me about 2 or 3 weeks. People ask me, how did you write that thing? I say, elves did it, because I have no idea. After it's done, it's almost like somebody erases the whiteboard and then you start over again.
I mean, how did you get the production together? I mean, you got Wicked Gift Productions, it seems.
Right.
Is that just...
one of the things that's been really cool is that as time has gone on, like I'm really trying, and like I've got no use at all for the kind of director who wants to be like a little tin pot dictator or that kind of thing. I've got no patience with that at all. That's not the kind of working relationship.
Well, you got to fire someone the first day. That's how it works. They know you're not fucking around.
There's things about theater tradition that I have no use for. I'm a rock guy. I'm not a theater guy. So I'm proud to say anybody who's worked with me, as far as I know, would still work with me again.
That's good.
That's really important. So I have this sort of ongoing troupe. Every time I do a show, I've got some new people, but I also have some legacy people. So, that's kind of... So when I want to do something crazy, like do a film, I already had people to choose from. Christian...
she's always been so supportive of the scene.
Yeah.
She's always so nice when I run into her.
She's freaking amazing. And would you not agree with me that just seeing her, she just screams to be in something?
Yeah.
I never discover these people. I just let them be who they are, as far as I can, or at least, again, because she's actually quite different once you get to know her than what you would imagine. But I played off of her image rather than her actual personality, and she killed it. I'm so proud. And that was her dad in the last scene.
Oh, really?
If you didn't know that. He was a fairly experienced film actor. And she said, can he be interested in coming in and doing this? And I said,
Rusty Cage? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's her dad.
Okay,
that's her dad. And I was like, well, what's this going to be? Is it going to be like this big ego monster or something? But no, he was like... And the first, this has happened a couple times. The first time he read it through, I was like, this isn't really going to work. But I think he nailed it. I really liked his work there at the end. I think he really made you feel that.
Yeah, and was there was it a long process to film it, or I mean,
okay. So you would think I'm like handing you all these things to ask, right? So what happened was we were 3/4 of the way through when COVID hit.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And we had to stop production completely for a year and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
No action. But it kills me to have anything unfinished. That just grates on me so much. So I always knew we were going to come back and finish it. And eventually we were, able, and the editing, if you don't know about film, like editing is a whole nother mother right there. But we got Joshua Backfield to edit it and film the last scenes. He did a great job. So, but that was funny that you asked that because, it was pretty extended there in the middle.
It just, it kind of plays into it in the story in a way because like the kind of the big visual change is that day 5 and, the guy gets a haircut. And
we wondered who would notice that. It would be you, of course. No, you're absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, it plays.
Anyone can get a haircut on day 4.
Yeah, right.
We got a haircut. The next day.
That was kind of what we were thinking.
That's just a slice of life. He had a big case, but he also I got a hair appointment. I can't.
So I mean, with that, was that just like anything else you do? You're just like, I'm gonna see if I can do it, or like making a movie. Just like
it really is. You grapple with each problem one at a time, and the one thing I've really learned. Adelaide, which was our most recent play, we put it on in October, I think. This most recent October, we left it's like maybe 25 minutes long as an actual play, but I left a 6 weeks runway just to handle all the things, props, costumes, and everything out of the way. Without, first you have a table read. I don't know if you know how theater works. First of all, everybody gets around. They may or not be the actual people, but you just sit around and read through the script so it gets an airing, which is really excruciating for the playwright because nobody knows how to deliver the lines yet. So you're like, oh my God, who wrote this stuff? But it's essential because you're getting feedback immediately, right? You know what's going to work and what's not going to work just from that. So anyway, that's the number one thing is just leave yourself time to deal with things as they come up. And that's what keeps me interested. I told you I don't want to do the same thing twice.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? It's all exploring is half the fun. So hopefully with every show I learn something that I can apply. And that's why Adelaide was the most stress-free production. The cast was great. The stage crew is great. Do not underestimate the importance of the stage crew. Those guys are vital, right? If they have their timing down, it's almost like choreographed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've set and striked a mic stand in my day.
Oh, well, there you go, man.
You got some cables a time or two.
No, you'll always hear me salute the stage crew.
So I imagine you're gonna try your best to keep telling stories. You want to do another movie? You want to do another musical? What do you?
I got to be 100% honest. I never have any idea what's coming next. Okay. People always ask me that, like right after, if there's a Q&A after, so what are you going to do next? Yeah. It's like, I don't know, and I'm good with that. Honestly, I'm happy right now to be concentrating on the music and the band more than anything else.
Yeah.
So the one thing I want to say, and it's always been true, it's as true now as it's ever been. People have come from other cities and gone to our shows, and we're uniquely supportive of other musicians here to a degree that many, many cities are not. And people are going, wow, man, it's like, it's not cutthroat, it's not competitive, but I'm saying a lot of times we were all we had.
Yeah.
Like we've done shows where there was like nothing but musicians out there, right?
Yeah.
A little scrimmage.
Yeah. So I think that's great. I do not take it for granted because it's not the normal situations. There you go.
Yeah. Well, for more recent stuff you've done, you put out a record last September, Going All Out. And were these songs just kind of like being collected, or did they come to you like?
Yeah, I'm very proud of the fact that they were all, with the exception of The River, which I'd had the music for a long time. All these songs are within the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And we've got new ones now.
Oh, okay.
And if you've come and seen our shows, last few shows, we've pretty much taken just from the album. But our shows in the future, we're going back and relearning songs from the previous 3 CDs. So we actually have a pretty extensive catalog, and now we're going to be able to mix and match. So we're, it's like if you've seen one show, you can't necessarily, I don't want to get to the point. It's like, oh, that again. It's like, well, no, because we got a really strong backlog of material, and so we're looking forward to presenting that.
Yeah, and I guess just kind of like winding down. I mean, you host Fresh Tunes.
Yes.
At Fresh Brewed. You want to talk about what that is?
It's really important to remember that the reason that I started doing it was to bring back local bands. There's nothing, I know you guys are going to argue with me about this, there's nothing like playing in a band. Like I had to actually learn to be a solo guy, because those were the only opportunities there were for a while there. And I was like really shaky and nervous as a solo guy, even though I've been playing music pretty much my whole life. I was like shaking like a leaf and dropping my pick and all that other stuff at open mic nights. But I'm now finally pretty relaxed about, doing that. But God, it's nothing like being in a band. Those are great guys I'm playing with now. Matt Sellers, Drew Jacobs, Peyton Benton. They're all singers. They're all songwriters in their own right. And I'm really honored to be playing with them. But as I said, I started Fresh Brewed so bands would have a platform. And I was originally going to have 2 bands and 1 solo act to open up for them. But there just weren't enough bands. So it's morphed into 2 acoustic acts and 1 headline band when I can get a headline band, which I mostly can, but not always. Like sometimes it's been like single, duo, and a duo. But some of the, so Sweet Sweet, for example, you can hear them as a duo. They're a great duo. Corinne plays with me. Sometimes when I play Irish music, she plays cello. So we sometimes, St. Patrick's Day, we play as a duo. But they performed as a band. I was just like a whole nother level of coolness.
I have to catch that because as a duo, it's so great.
Honestly, I'm going to try and get them again as a band, because it's the music was suddenly majestic. There's no other word for it. It was like, it was big,
Yeah. Yeah. So when is Fresh Tunes typically?
Okay, it is always, this is one of the, I said, I'm going to make it so that no one will ever forget. And of course, everybody always does. It's the first Saturday of every month.
Okay, well, that's easy enough to remember.
Yeah, except this most recent one, we had to move it. But if we're back again. It's March 1st, this coming Saturday. It's going to be Rachel Kapp will open. We Saw a Bear as a duo. They're a killer band too. Right?
I've seen, I've used to work with Connor.
Yeah,
I know he's a talented dude.
Oh, he's so talented, so talented. Both of them are. And then Angie Capone's band as a full band is going to be headlining.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show.
What was the April and May ones?
So we already said Ocala's.
Unless you like to wait to a. Do you like to?
Part of it is like I've tried to like book further in advance, but like the wheels fall off. Like
well, this is coming around. This is coming out around late March.
Yeah, so I can at least tell you that for April we've got Ocala.
Yeah. Okay.
And Matt Sellers he's drummer in our band, but he's going to be performing his original songs with a band.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. One thing I completely forgot this question.
Yeah.
Reading, you had these really, really good blogs on the Wicked Gift websites. You talk about having to fit on mixed genre bills.
Oh, this reminds me of a question that I had.
and playing with Cookie Monster bands. Do you have any memories of one where you felt really out of place?
Most of the for a long time, like early early 20s, late teens, early 20s, I played in cover bands too. So all the really excruciating memories I have were when a manager put us somewhere where we're completely a fish out of water. Like there's a scene where the band has to play like for an Air Force, group. Like an Air Force party. And
Okay.
like we had to do something like that.
Oh.
We had to play at like, anyway. Yeah, those are mainly the ones. Since we started playing original music, people know they're getting original music, and we only play in places where they know what we're going to do.
I see. Now, what was this?
Well, it's not as much of it's not a Cookie Monster band. But you guys did.
Did you get that term from me? I got it from Michael Wood.
I've heard it.
I've heard it before, but
because that's exactly
No, it
what
used
that
to kill me
sounds like.
because at the Limelight, especially, it's like you'd have 45 minutes of and then when they would stop to say, "Thank you very much."
well, I mean,
We have CDs for sale in the back.
to be fair,
God bless.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I think this was written around like 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But also, we listened to the discography today, and Cell Phone at the end, you could probably front a hardcore
That's a
band.
breakdown.
Yeah, at the end, you could definitely front a hardcore band with that.
I thought that Cell Phone, I had actually nightmares that was going to be like a hit.
Oh.
That would, and for the rest of my
Nightmares.
life, I would
Oh.
have to do Cell Phone.
You're not a fan?
That's a fun one.
But no, it is
Well,
a fun one. I'm not
yeah.
going to say it's not.
Yeah.
But you never want to be in the position of having to do it like, on tour constantly.
It's
Yeah,
like
with the
Nirvana
yelling.
hating
Yeah,
Teen
right.
Spirit.
But that's fun. The only thing, there was a built-in obsolescence to it that I didn't realize at the time. Like who has an answering machine or something, So
Okay, so y'all opened for Against Me at the Lazy Eye.
yeah, we did.
That is one of my favorite
Yeah,
bands.
yeah.
Do you remember anything from that show in particular? Okay.
Oh,
Sounds
this is really going to hurt me bad. It's going to hurt you. I don't know. I guess we can mutually feel pain, but I barely listened to them.
Yeah.
But what I remember, I just wasn't that impressed.
Oh.
But they weren't a big deal then.
Yeah.
They were just another band going through, and I was the Beat Holes were on that bill.
That seems
And
kind of fitting.
I love the Beat Holes, so yeah. I mean, I wish I remembered it more. I had no idea until years later. Somebody said, "You played with Against Me."
That was I saw the flyer and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure we're talking, 2003.
That's what I was thinking.
2004 maybe.
because that was
Like
like
Eternal Cowboy.
Eternal
era,
Cowboy. They were on the folk. They're still like folk punky, but kind of
playing
cranking
their
it up a little
songs
bit.
like 5 times faster than the record. Probably.
Yeah,
You
Still-
didn't have fun.
super DIY at that point. Still,
Wow.
That's okay.
that's okay. I just wanted that. That's like a thing that sticks out. Like there's so many bands have come through Myrtle Beach,
Right.
and it was before they were like, holy shit, that band. But
Yeah.
it was like Against Me in a small like storefront on Seaboard Street. It
I
just
know.
kind of blows my mind.
And that wasn't the only band like
Yeah,
that.
there was, and when Bradley Benson was here, he just fired off a bunch of bands that
Yeah.
played these tiny
Yeah.
places here.
Yeah.
And it's just
Michael
crazy.
Wood was such a godsend to us.
We could do a second episode with Michael Wood.
yeah,
honestly.
it'd be twice as long as mine. Yeah, he just came down. He was just here for our most recent
Yeah.
Fresh Tune show. But he posted a roster of just like a month and a half of bands.
I think Dashboard Confessional was on
Right.
there.
Yeah, yeah. They'll. Yeah,
It's just wild to
guy
think
like
about.
that's irreplaceable. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't asked me about my musical influences.
I'm surprised too, honestly. You started to, and then we kind of just kept on going.
Well, I hear it's interesting.
Yeah,
because,
you tell me. You're in a better position
Well,
to judge than I.
I found it kind of interesting. Like you weren't a fan of musicals, but I kind of hear a lot of Alan Menken and Stephen Flattery and stuff like that in the songs. But yeah, what do you like, Phil?
Well, no, I just want to say two things because I was coming down here trying to anticipate what you might ask me so that I might have some good answers for you. That was a totally useless exercise. But I will say two things real quick. So it's impossible to say like what my favorite song is. But if I had to, I would say Everybody Wants to Rule the World is just a genius piece. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of in awe of that piece of music. But that's not my favorite moment of music. My favorite moment of recorded music is I'm a big Police fan. Lyrics, music, everything about the Police. Also, I love They Might Be Giants. I love the whole quirky aspect of that.
Yeah.
But Don't Stand So Close to Me. Right. That one cymbal hit in between the verse and the chorus where it goes, Psst, don't stand. Oh my God, I almost drove off the road. Seriously. I don't know what it is, but it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was, you can go back and go, okay, it was reggae influence and all that other stuff. But the idea that you could hit a cymbal like that right there and it'd be so perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Genius. Yeah. I also like the drums on She Drives Me Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, is there anything else I missed? Is there any other questions I should ask?
Man, honestly, you've done an amazing job.
Oh,
I feel like we've sort of gone through the whole Phil Fox thing, so it's like next.
Yeah, sometimes I blink. Sometimes I'm like, where was I going with that? But but it's all good. Well, hey, man, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
The pleasure's really been all mine.
And thanks for being part of the scene.
And continuing to contribute
absolutely.
to the scene. And booking the Fresh Tunes shows and being part of it.
And I know you say you don't know what's next, but do you have any, are you doing anything right now? Like, what do you, any idea?
You'll be at the Renaissance Fair, right?
Yeah.
Because I might go to that.
The next, it's twice a year now. There's now a spring version too, which is smaller. It's a little more intimate.
The Beltane.
Yeah, Beltane is on April 27th. But I'll be doing more Irish ballads in the bar.
Yeah. So
I'm doing that.
I like Boys of the Old Brigade. You know that one?
See, this is how I get my repertoire, right? People go, I'd love to say, well, there's this old Irish grandfather who comes and teaches me these songs, but no, it's YouTube. But I do take, that's how I get my repertoire. Somebody goes, well, you don't play that song.
Are you allowed to sing about the IRA at these things?
It's interesting. I will address that. So I usually sing with Callie when I do the medieval fair. But there is something now at Smuggler's Den. It's the third Sunday of every month, and it's like an Irish jam, like the classic sort of like you could imagine like a small town in Ireland. The musicians get together. Yeah. And the thing is, most of these songs, like there's a Myrtle Beach repertoire. There's like an Irish repertoire that a lot of people know the same songs. So it makes it easier to jam. So I've just gone to a couple of them. It's at Smuggler's Den about 2:00. And one of the amazing things about it, like there's usually 2 violin players, in penny whistle, a couple other basic Irish instruments. But the weirdest thing is we're like huddled in a corner and we're looking sometimes at the sheet music, right? And we're not really paying attention. Every time we stop, like there's 20 or 30 people there, they all clap. Like that never happens even in a real bar where you're like really doing a show, Yeah. It just kills me, but it just happens every time. So there's audience appreciation for you.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Every third.
Every third Sunday. At Smuggler's Den with Merle's Inlet.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's really cool. It's a really cool thing. And I'm sure more musicians will come as John Washburn, who plays with
that was our principal.
Yeah, he was our principal.
That kills me. You know, because I only know him as the fellow musician.
I knew he was a musician.
Well, he was cool with us because he used to be a band director.
Yeah, he would sit in if our band director had to go do whatever. He would sit in.
Yeah, he loved it,
and he loved it.
So
and then
cool.
when I worked at Guitar Center, he would come in sometimes, and I would talk to him.
Yeah,
but that's cool that he I've seen him pop up on flyers. Like, okay, I'm glad that he's doesn't have to hang out with a bunch of terrible high schoolers every day. He can just do music now.
He showed up last time with a mandolin. He's really.
That's awesome.
Killing it. Obviously, he's a trumpet player.
We should talk to him.
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
Yes, do it.
Let's see if him and Dumas will come on.
All right. And then what's that?
No, I was just going to say, it's so amazing. When I was working for IBM, I'd be working on a cash register in the mall, and somebody would come up and say, "Didn't I see you playing there last night?"
Right on, yeah.
So that was weird. But it was way weirder to be on stage playing, and somebody was saying, "No, weren't you fixing my cash register?" It's like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. All right, and Fresh Tunes every first Saturday of the month
at Fresh Brew Coffee House.
Right. We'll probably stop in June and resume in October.
Okay,
but we do that every year.
Nice.
Just because.
And where can people find The Wicked Gift and the Phil Fox on the internet for all your stuff?
To see what's happening next.
Well, we are developing a brand new website, since the one we have is literally Stone Age.
I like it that way.
Back in the day, right? But that's a work in progress right now. As I said, the main thing is the YouTube channel, and I will give you the address for that, and I hope you will disseminate it.
Oh yeah, we post all the links when we post the episodes.
That's the main one I would want right now.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you again, Phil.
Oh, thank you so
for the
much.
music.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing the stuff in the scene. And Devin.
Yes.
There's a lot of shows that go on in Myrtle Beach, and you can go see Wicked Gift. You can go to the Fresh Tunes. There's a lot of shows in Myrtle Beach, but there's nothing like a Myrtle Beach show.
Correct.
So you have to go to at Myrtle Beach shows. Are you saying what I'm saying at the same time?
I thought we were going to do it at the same time.
Okay, we could at
Myrtle
Beach.
I don't like this.
Shows. I thought we were going to all harmonize.
At Myrtle Beach shows.
Perfect. We'll just auto tune it and post it.
And that's where there's a lot of shows that go on in Myrtle Beach, but there's nothing like a Myrtle Beach show. You got to follow that to keep up with the shows in Myrtle Beach.
And then
the spreadsheet. You want to be in a band? There's a spreadsheet. It's called "Do you want to be a band in Myrtle Beach?" New title, please, Costin. Jesus Christ.
Do you want to start a band? in Myrtle
you
Beach?
want to start a band? You can start a prog rock band with me.
Yeah, Andrew's on the list. No one's hit him up.
And
like Phil mentioned earlier, sometimes it can be a little difficult to connect, especially if you're new in town. But it seems like we get some people that are new in town that we connect with through Instagram or Reddit. You can get on our Instagram. It's like one of the first links in our little bio. You can click on it and it'll take you to a thing. Fill out the crap. You'll be on a spreadsheet with other people that fill out the crap. There's close to 100 people on there by now. Wow. Some of them have started bands. Some of them are eagerly awaiting to start bands, or maybe they want to start a second and third band. I'm not on the list, which Jen pointed out to me. She said, everyone's on here except you. I was like, yeah, because when we made it, I was in 3 bands. I was tapped out. Yeah. So...
All right, well,
go start a band with somebody.
All right, folks, let's get out of here. You have to follow at Windley_band to keep up with the world of Windley on all social media.
Depending on when this comes out, we're probably playing shows somewhere.
Yeah, there'll be a little edit right now. March 28th in Savannah, Georgia at El Rocco Lounge. Then the next day in Charleston at the Tin Roof, it's the Frequency Fest, and from my understanding, this is free admission. In March 30th in Durham, North Carolina, we've never played a show in Durham, North Carolina. It's very nice to be that. We're doing that now at Ruby's on 5 Points.
Right now.
But until then, goodbye. Goodbye.